Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the opener. New episode here for you. We are a week away from the trade deadline. As of today, just shy of exactly 1 week from right now, the whole league, well, some of the league is probably going to look quite a bit different. We're going to preview that with some mock trades today that neither of us know. We've set some stuff up that neither of us know. We're going to talk about that and see whether we would accept the deal or not accept the deal, or maybe change the deal. That'll be coming a little bit later. Before then, we are going to talk about the Guardian series and just check in on the team. It's been a little bit since we've done that, Will. How are you opening today?
I'm over 2 ways. One, it's 727, July 27th. So the Rays playing St. Pete. That's Pinellas County. 727. We're gonna rep that. But I'm going to open with just how crazy is it that this team has already surpassed their 2025 win total after all of the offseason changes, the trades, the releases, the new acquisitions, and somehow this team holds the best record in the American League, and they have a top farm system in baseball. Like, I know our preseason preview, I was like, oh, this team can win 90 games. It's actually pretty good. But if we're being realistic, like, that was maybe just being very optimistic. But it's kind of weird looking at it that is kind of how this team is trending as a 90 plus win team. When coming into the season, they were thought to be finishing in last place in the American League, or AL East at least, and that Yanni Diaz was probably going to be moved because of how they were going to perform and all this stuff. And it's the complete opposite, and they're going into the trade deadline as not just buyers, but big buyers, big spenders, and there's been a lot of good reports so far, I've heard.
This is a very fun time of year when you're a good team. Very fun time of year when you're good. And I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait to see what happens. And I have to give massive credit to you because I think you had nailed this season the best out of anybody that I heard. You were maybe the only person who was saying that you really like this team, that they could get to 90 wins, and you are looking to be correct. I've got the Pacoda standings here, which is like, projection, a notable projection site that has the Rays projected for 93 wins, and the Yankees behind them with 90. They're not as bullish on the Red Sox, despite them coming into the picture. They got them projected for 82. Anything can happen, but we've got a decent amount of sample size at this point in the year as you get to the trade deadline. Rays have a 99.6% playoff chance to make the playoffs. It would be an epic meltdown if they were to miss the playoffs, maybe all-timer. Also, the Rays have check this out, second highest World Series win odds behind the Dodgers, of course, who are put in at 21%, which is absurd. The Rays at 14%. 14%. Mm-hmm. I think you look at the fact that it's likely, who knows, I can't say that yet, but good chance that the Rays win the division. Over is 65% chance that the Rays win the division as of today. So you get that bye. And then you look at the rest of the AL, and the Guardians, who are projected to win the Central, which could go a few different ways. It's definitely too early to say there. And we just swept them, and it wasn't. The last game was close with Messick and Rasmussen, but it wasn't particularly close. Like, we definitely look like the better team. You look at the AL West. Seattle and Houston are having a pillow, or rather, Seattle and Texas are having a pillow fight. Houston's in there, but just as we've talked about throughout the year, the AL is looking weak, and it's lining up for the Rays to just take charge, with the deadline playing a big role in that.
Yeah, and it's, if you're a team like the Rays, you've had a lot of stuff go right for you. The Blue Jays are kind of in that World Series hangover. Even though they didn't win, they're definitely slumping for after going to the World Series. And the Rays are kind of lucky that the Yankees, they lost Max Fried earlier in the year. Aaron Judge is out, and now Cody Bellinger's out for, I think it's like 4 to 6 weeks. So they've kind of had the perfect storm of scenarios come up for them. They've stayed relatively healthy, and they've been able to capitalize on a pretty mediocre American League this year. And it's exactly why the Rays are looking to make some noise in the trade deadline. We've seen Eric Neander do it before, right? When the Rays have a chance to win the division, not just wild card, but win the division and get that first round bye from the wild card round, they spend. And so I'm very excited just to. I kind of had that antsy feeling, like it's almost like Christmas. It's like you're a week before Christmas. You're like, oh man, like I just want to go. Like, let's do it. Come on, like I'm so excited. And that's how this trade deadline feels. Not like last year where you kind of know the team's going to be moving some guys.
And a lot of times the Rays end up doing, which they very well could and probably will do at least with one move. They do something that nobody really predicted, and it will be a small move that you don't expect, even in a year where you're a winning team. But this year feels different. This year feels like they're going to make big moves, and they've got a top farm system. So it's kind of funny. The Dodgers, the Brewers, and the Rays have the top 3 farm systems, and they also are all leading their divisions and are the 3 probably best teams. There's some other NL teams that, if you put the Rays against the Phillies in the World Series, even if the Rays end up with a better regular season record, I think the edge still goes to the Phillies there. I just think they're a little better team, more experienced. They've been in that environment a lot, those guys, that core. But point being that we have tons of ammo to fire here, and we'll get to that in a little bit. We haven't talked as much about the team. Just recently we've talked about the draft quite a bit, and so I just want to let's go through a couple things and check in on some guys. The first guy that I want to call out, Will, is Chandler Simpson, who has really turned it back around, man. It was bleak for a while. That teams were adjusting to him in all parts of his game. I guess not defensively. He's been solid all year defensively. Still looks uncomfortable at times, but at this point I think that's just his personality and his flair in the outfield. I think that's just who he is, because he consistently makes good reads and jumps and does things that we didn't see last year. And so all the offseason work and him getting better and better at that position in left field, where he's played pretty much every day, despite some struggles against lefties. I would think, Will, that he'd be somebody that I wouldn't think should have big platoon splits just because of his game. It's all about contact, and so he's not trying to get out in front and pull the ball necessarily. It's a happy accident when he does. So you'd think he'd be able to stay back on like a lefty-lefty slider a little better. So I think there's still maturity for Chandler in pitch selection and just the quality of his at-bats. There's a lot of times, we've talked about this before, where he seems like he wants to take until 2 strikes. Like he'll take 2 fastballs right down the middle, and then now he's got to fight and scratch and claw, which he can do, but it's still not ideal. But it's been a great turnaround for him. What do you think about Chandler? I'm really impressed with how the last month or so has been.
Yeah, I mean, I've voiced it here, yourself. Like I really wasn't a big Chandler Simpson guy coming into the year, and he kind of proved me wrong in the beginning, and then he proved me right in the middle a little before the All-Star break. And I think, and I have no idea, but I would like to think maybe that the hype around him maybe got to him a little bit. He's hitting good, he's stealing base, he's playing good defense, and I think in his head he was thinking, I want to get some pop, I want to get some gappers, maybe hit a couple triples, maybe knock one out, like. And I think you saw him just hitting the ball just up way too much compared to his game of just slapping it up the middle, just blooping it over the shortstop's head, going between the infielders, right? So it's good to see him doing that again, right? And he's been incredibly well. I don't think he should ever go back to a leadoff spot, because I think that also maybe messed with him mentally in his game, that he was like, it's a big thing coming to a leadoff spot and kind of taking that position from Yanni Diaz. There's a lot of weight that's on your shoulders, and he didn't really do too great at it, but that's okay, because I'm fine with Chandler Simpson hitting 7th or 8th in the lineup and getting on base for when the lineup turns around. What I'm very, very impressed with Chandler Simpson is his base running right now. And I think you were at the game when he kind of jumped early to get a stick base. He kind of got
I was not. You weren't at that one. Yep. I was at the first. That was game 2 of the series, I think.
That was, yeah, I think so.
And I do know what you're talking about, though.
So I've seen him actually more than one time try to time it and jump a little early, but I'm actually okay with that, because the problem that Chandler Simpson was actually having was, one, the pitches he was running on. It was he'd let the first pitch go and the second pitch he'd run, and everybody would know he's going. But it was also his jumps were so poor. The pitcher would get all the way up and almost start going towards home, or even get to like the top of its leg kick, and then he would start running. He wasn't running on that first step. He wasn't getting a good first read, and that has totally changed. And now he's stealing the bases. He's swiping the bags. He's being Chandler Simpson, causing all this chaos, and we saw it against the Guardians, right? Stole second, got bumped over to third, and then a bunt by Cedric Mullins and scored him. That's the only run they needed. So
Yep.
His turnaround has been really good, and I would like to be a Chandler Simpson lover. I would love for him to kind of keep this going for the rest of the season, get his batting average to a good, maybe 320. I have 40 stolen bases on the year, and to me, that's a good Chandler Simpson season.
He's gotten back to where he was last year. It's just slightly better. He's up to a 688 OPS, 329 on base. Remember, that was under 300 not that long ago. Under was in the 290s, maybe even a little lower. So really good turnaround. It's hard. The traditional metrics are not going to capture everything for a guy like Chandler, but if we look at something like a little bit more advanced, he's had a league average ex-WOBA the last 50 or so plate appearances. So maybe, what is that, the last 15 games, 12 to 15 games, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Which if he's league, it changes the picture a little bit, because I think if he's league average by the traditional stats, he's better than that, because there's things you're not exactly quantifying. And when you're an elite defender and base runner, creating runs in that way, it's the recipe's back for Chandler. I still want to see that 350 on base. That's the goal that he should have in his mind. I think was that's where he should be. It goes to show the fact that he's not as successful stealing the bases and winning that lull. It goes to show you that raw sprint speed is only part of the picture. I mean, look at somebody like Josh Naylor, who started stealing all these bases out of nowhere. I think part of it is the fact that you're not expecting him to go, so you're not as queued it up to throw down,
right,
or you know what I mean. But he actually pulled a move that I thought was so fascinating. I watched this where it was a lefty pitching who's looking right at him, and he fakes the pitcher. This might have been against us in the series. I'm pretty sure it was against us. He stole a base off I don't know who it was, but what he did is the pitcher's looking right at him, and he's pretending to not really be paying attention and messing with his sliding mitt, right? As soon as the pitcher goes, he takes off for second, and it is safe. And he has one of the lowest sprint speeds in the league. So there's little shit like that, pardon the French, that just like, I think you kind of get some of those type of things in your back pocket over the years that can lead you to steal more bases. So it's great to see him turning things around. The Rays are so good at knowing when to pull the plug on somebody, because I would have pulled the plug and had Melton up, several weeks ago, and now Chandler's effective once again, and an important guy for us in ways that don't always show up in the stats, right?
Yeah, and it's different, right? Because this is the Rays, right? This isn't the Yankees, and Chandler has been such a great defender this year. He's probably going to be up for a Gold Glove this year in left field. To me, I feel like he has. It's
going to be hard to beat Bellinger, but he's injured now.
But he's injured now, so he might not get total innings and games. But at least I think Simpson will be a Gold Glove finalist. And if you know the Rays from today and then all the way back, since 2006, 2007, 2008, whatever, they love defense, right? That's why Taylor Walls, for being honest, as much as I love Taylor Walls, that's why he's still on the team in the everyday shortstop. Right. The defense is so good. So they'll take, maybe a little below average hitter for their skill set, like a Chandler Simpson hitting 270 when you're just still playing great defense over in left field.
Absolutely. You said something before, talk about the Blue Jays, how they're having a shockingly bad year. Part of this injury related, no question asked, but if you told me that team that made it to, was an inning away from winning a World Series would add Dylan Cease, who's a likely Cy Young winner,
from winning the World Series.
You're right. Okay, yes. This literally doesn't get any closer, right? And you add Dylan Cease, who's been maybe the best pitcher in the American League, him and Schiller, kind of 1-2. Then you add Okamoto, who's probably been their best hitter, and was a risk going into the year, coming over from Japan, but was known to be a little less risky than a guy like Murakami, who's become electric and one of my favorite players in the game really quickly. So the fact that they're this bad gives so much more credit to the Rays. I know we had a couple of bad years in a row. I do. But just how largely successful we've been for 20 years is truly remarkable. Like, massive credit to everybody involved along the way. They are so good at building a competitive team, building something from little funds to work with, right? Like it's very hard to be the Rays. Very hard to do what they do, and they do it well.
And getting the buy-in from players also. I think that's part, there's the the front office and the analytics and everybody that's not on the field. But then getting a player, you could take Cedric Mullins for example, this veteran that's been in the league for I don't even know how many years, maybe like I would say maybe 10 or 12 years.
Eight or I think around 8 or
Oh,
yeah, I think it's 8. Well, let's see. He got traded. I think this is his 7th year, which is kind of surprising because
I thought he was in way longer.
yeah, well, he played it out with the Orioles right to the end of his contract. Gets traded to the
Right.
Mets, comes as free agency. I think this is year 7.
So, but you take a guy like him, he's an all-star. He's, kind of been a leader on a team and bring him to the Rays. And I'm sure, they sit down with him and say, this is how we do stuff, right? You're probably not going to be an everyday guy. We're not looking for you to hit, 20, 30 home runs, right? We are going to have you bunt the ball and sacrifice and do some of the stuff that maybe you're not used to, but that's how we play and that's how we win games. And getting the buy-in from these players of, all right, that's what we're going to do. Nick Martinez, maybe another guy, hey, you're only going to pitch 5 innings, right? At least for the beginning, and we'll
he's
figure out.
surpassed that as well.
Yeah, he's easily surpassed that. But that that's what they
great.
tell him. Hey, we're going to look at your pitch count. This is how many I think we're going to do. We might pull you after five innings, right? When you only have 1 hit, but that's how we do things here. You surpass it, but it's the buy-in from the players as well.
You have to get the right personalities in there, and that's maybe the 10th man on the field for us at all times. When Martinez is pitching, the Rays are 16-3 or 16-4, something like that when he's on the mound.
Maybe 17.
It's insane, and you can see how much of a leader he is. And they've talked about it now that as the years gone on, as him in the clubhouse, how much of a leader he is, and how much of a goofball he can be, which keeps things light. And when he is on the mound, the passion that he physically expresses is so fun. Like just a slightly better than average play by Caminero at third, and Martinez just acts like we just won the World Series title. It's so much fun when he takes the pill. Mullins, you brought him up, and he is slumping again right now, unfortunately. I think, to his credit, he is in the 96th percentile in range out there in center. He's played a really, really good center field this year. And, I don't think he's going to get to his career marks offensively. It's going to take a really, really good last 2 months of the year for him to get there. He's at a 634 OPS right now. But I don't have it right in front of me, but I was looking before these. Almost got into 1 WAR. I think I'm almost certain we talked about in the preview, the season preview, that 1.5 to 2 WAR is what you're looking for Cedric, and he looks like he's going to get there despite a really rocky start. So I think it's turned out, all things considered, I think it's turned out pretty good with Cedric Mullins. Would you like a better offensive season from start to finish? Yes, but I think we're okay with where things stand. Yeah.
I think if Cedric doesn't have that abysmal start, that his numbers would be looking a lot better. But sometimes it's just tough to, baseball is a game of numbers statistic wise. So if you have, 2 bad months, it's hard to kind of break out of that and post your, great numbers. But Cedric has been great in center field. And I really think his bat, while it might not be maybe the most like reliable bat in the lineup, you could say, like, sometimes you see him swing at some pitchers like, man, what are you swinging at, man? Like, that was a terrible at bat. But I think it used to be he was an automatic out, and I really don't see that as much with Cedric Mullins anymore. I think he's been just a little bit of a better hitter, but again, it's kind of like I said with Chandler Simpson, Taylor Walls, like, you might not be the best hitter, but if you're playing like elite defense, then the Rays are okay with that.
Yeah, and center field and shortstop are like 2 spots where I think that's totally fine. If those guys are batting 8th and 9th in your lineup, then and they're elite defenders, that's great. That's good team construction. You can get your offense from third base, first base, DH, places like that. Aranda's been struggling a little bit lately, kind of due for a turnaround. I'm optimistic about him. It's there's always smaller, sometimes larger, but there's always peaks and valleys in a season, right? And I think he's in a valley right now. Should be trending upward at any moment. I'd say similar with Yandy. Junior's been one of the best hitters in the league, top 5 hitter in the American League. They maybe hit all of baseball. So the big 3, continue to be part of it. I think we'd love to have it be a big 4. Trying to just bounce around some different names. Like Ryan Valade, he'll sit on the bench for 4 games and then come back and hit a homer on the first pitch he sees. Yeah. I mean, and I was there for that game, and it was just it was a wall scraper. Just got into the first row, but it was so impressive to to essentially you're coming out cold. I mean, like it's really impressive, and it's
And he
I
was playing
think
first base that
defensively.
game, I
He
think, or
was
maybe
second base. He played
played second
second
base.
base. Yes,
Yep.
he did. And I think it's just the fact that the Rays don't love his defense as much, even though he's versatile and is surprisingly athletic and fast that you don't necessarily expect. You'd think he could get some more run. You'd think he could get some more playtime. I'm very interested to see what happens in the coming years with him because
Yeah.
we've got plenty of team control. He's not going anywhere unless there's a chance that he could be somebody that gets traded at the deadline in a current MLB player for current MLB player type of thing. I was looking at this. I'm not going to give much away for our upcoming segment here. It was hard for me to find a good fit because you're losing one of your best, if not your best, lefty platoon hitter, lefty pitcher, righty platoon hitter, and there's just nobody coming up behind him for it that can play the different positions he does. So I don't see it happening. So hopefully he gets time to be a Ray for 3 or 4 years and see how he develops and what kind of player he ends up, what the total body of work ends up being in a Rays uniform.
Yeah, I think this is Valet's like fourth team in 2 years or 3 years or something. It's something crazy, right? That he's seems like he's found a home with the Rays, and he is, I think, the best right-handed lefty platoon bat. And I kind of on your side. Like, I don't think he's someone that they're going to move, especially when you look at, mainly he plays right field, right? He's played a little bit more first base and second base. I think try to move him around, and I don't know if that's for trade value or for just in case something happens. I'm not sure, but they are trying to move him around a little bit. But when you look at the outfield, if Johnny DeLuca gets hurt, they don't have any right-handed hitting outfielders if they trade Ryan Valade, right? So I think he's someone that has so much team control and has really good bat speed. It's like in like the 97th percentile of bat speed, which is, I think, maybe that's a little bit high, but I know he has incredible bat speed for his profile, which I think is so crazy. But I've been impressed. It seems like when he hits it, he really like he hits the ball,
You are absolutely right. I thought it was like 70th percentile.
I thought
you
I
are
just
absolutely
looked at it.
Yeah. Which wow, good pull, good call up there.
It's like absurd bat speed, like for like a guy like Ryan Valade, and knowing the Rays, like it seemed like that's what they were trying to do for a little bit is find guys that have bat speed, high bat speed, right? Like Christopher Morel, he had a really good bat speed, so Valade kind of fits into that. But he's been the Valade Brigade, right? Vil Goat is what we call him.
Right.
He used to be Valades, and now he's Vil Goat. So
yeah, I didn't know this. I didn't know this. Originally drafted in the second round by the Rockies, 2017. Did not know that. I think it was maybe Reds and Tigers or other two teams that he was involved in.
I know the
can't say for
Tigers.
sure.
I don't know if the Reds. I know the Tigers for sure.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, so raw bat speed, like great skill, elite skill to have. And the other thing is he still gives you a good at bat. He's above average in K rate, just slightly below at major league average in walk rate. Doesn't chase a whole lot, doesn't whiff a whole lot. So the numbers it's not a flash in the pan. He's a good hitter, and I expect him to stick around. And he has a kind of a knack for the moment a little bit, right?
Does.
We've seen that at times. So that's an intangible skill. 798 OPS for Valade. He's only had 174 plate appearances this year, so maybe that number will go up in future years.
Right.
Let's talk a little pitching. So obviously you've got, I think maybe we start here with Griffin Jacks. It's at this point we've seen enough starting. Will I know maybe I think you've apologized enough, for Jacks. I don't. I think you got a clean slate here to work with. As a starter, he's been excellent, and I
talked to him on the phone. He understands.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, it's amazing. Like he's pitched so good for us. He could stay with us. You called for a short term type of deal, like maybe a 3-year, $40 million or something like that. Because we think that the pitching might be a little thin next year when we look at things. Just his transition as a starter has been great. It's another Rays classic. You've got Jeffrey Springs, you've got Drew Rasmussen, Zack Littell, and now Griffin Jacks, who've converted from relievers into starters and had a lot of success right away. So just credit to the Rays, and man, he's been electric. Let me pull some stats up. I'll hand it over to you for some thoughts here while I do that.
Yeah, I mean, if I haven't said enough already, I'm sorry, Griffin Jacks. From the bullpen, you were king of the bums, but and Starting, you are not king of the bumps. He has been kind of like what the Rays probably needed, right? Because I felt like, you know, besides like the three main pitchers, right, they were losing a lot in the back end, right? There's Steven Matz, who looked okay as a starter, and Ian Seymour sometimes comes from an opener. Mason Engler is he'll pitch like 7 innings and have like 9 strikeouts or something. It would be ridiculous, but give up like 4 runs or whatever. But Griffin Jacks has been like he's like solidified himself in this rotation, and not just for this year, for the following year. Because I do think a possible 3-year extension wouldn't be an awful idea when you look at the contract, right? Nick Martinez is probably gone next year. Shane is in his last year of arbitration, and Drew Raspin is going to be costing about $20 million. So those are three guys that are your three best pitchers that there's a chance all three of them are not on the team next year. Now, I see a world that they give Shane McClanahan an extension, right? As a homegrown guy. Ras, maybe they restructure his contract, give him an extension. Who knows? But I think Griffin Jacks is the one you probably afford the most and give that extension to keep. And something, I don't know why more teams aren't converting relievers into starting pitchers. Like we've seen the Rays do this every single season. It's not like they got lucky with Jeffrey Springs or got lucky with Drew Rasmussen or got lucky with Zack Littell. Like they've done this for players, and it's pretty much like changed their entire careers. Jeffrey Springs was a reliever, had a great beginning of the season. I think it was 2024. Probably was on track for like a Cy Young that year. Maybe it was 2023. And they traded him to the Athletics, and he's a full starting pitcher there. Drew Rasmussen, again, from the Willie Adames trade, a pretty solid reliever. And they decide, hey, let's make you into a full-time starter. Well, fast forward now, he's a 2-time All-Star. He's probably going to be in the top 5 of AL Cy Young. We'll see how the tail end of the season goes, because that usually decides, MVP and Cy Young and stuff. And then Zack Littell, his career was like, borderline in the toilet, I think, and they made him a starter. And then
it's back in the toilet, unfortunately.
It's back in the toilet, but they helped him out. They helped him out a little bit, and
he
now
got paid a little.
Griffin Jacks, who was probably one of the worst relievers in baseball at the beginning of this year, and has somehow turned into, I would say, probably since, let's take a guess, since he started as a starter, or maybe we'll say since like May or June, he's probably one of the best starting pitchers in baseball. Like, if we're being totally honest.
Yeah, so I was pulling it up.
Incredible.
So 16 games started to this point, and we've seen as those games have gone on, him getting deeper and deeper into games. 72 innings pitched. He's got a 3.38 ERA, a 1.139 WHIP. So pretty good numbers. I mean, it's just, now here's the thing. If let's say you don't give him an extension, you just increase his value a lot, turning him from a reliever into a good starting pitcher that you can trust. If they trade him this offseason, they can get more from it for him. So, I mean, it's just excellent work by the Rays and by him, and you have to credit all these guys individually. Drew Rasmussen, I think, is the perfect prototypical Ray, just personality-wise, player and pitcher profile-wise. You have to give so much credit to the work ethic of these players to actually make this transition happen, and the coaching staff to lead them down the right path. So, a lot of good things to say about just the
and these
Rays
are all
as a whole.
in-season transitions. It's not, actually, I think Brian Anderson was saying this on the Peacock broadcast, but it's not like they do it in training camp. It's not like they do it in spring training. Maybe they have the conversations, but it's always happening live in games, right? Games that are real competitive games that they're doing these transitions, which is even a crazier way to think about it.
Yeah, it is. So you got, now looking ahead, so we talk about our rotation right now: McClanahan, Martinez, Rasmussen, Jackson, Seymour, who doesn't always start in the first inning, but is essentially the 5th starter that we have right now. McClanahan, health and innings concerns. Drew Rasmussen, health and innings concerns. Griffin Jacks converting to a starter, innings concerns. Ian Seymour hasn't started a full season in the league. Nick Martinez is, I think, the most durable guy here. You got to start to look ahead if you're the Rays and kind of thread that needle of, well, we need to keep winning games so we can win this division, but at the same time, we need these guys to be at their absolute best when playoff baseball rolls around. So that's my one concern. They've been so good, but there's nobody here like a Dylan Cease who's like never injured and can pitch 120 pitches a game. So okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but just my point, right? So
Yeah.
there's a need here to throw a pitcher in there. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Bullpen, I mean, it's really just been Baker and Kelly have been standouts. Garrett Clevenger, seems to be turning things around a little bit. Cam Boozer's been excellent. We've highlighted him in a preview.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guys have really played their roles well, I think is how I would say things up. When you look at someone like a Legumina, Sulcer, now on our roster is Steven Matz is back. We'll see what happens from Steven Matz, right? So I don't know if you have any bullpen
Kimbrel
thoughts
on that thought.
Kimbrel.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about it. It's like usually the Rays bullpen it like starts okay, and then maybe like, oh, there's actually a lot of holes in this, and the Rays are usually able to fix it. And it seems like this year it's kind of just scrapping it along, right? Thankfully, the Rays are not like the Nationals who have a catastrophic bullpen that costs them games all the time, because the Rays have probably a top 3 closer in baseball in Brian Baker. I think they've won. I think he's had like 17 or 20 consecutive saves. Now he hasn't blown a save in 2016 or 20 times or something. It's a crazy number, but in the Rays' head, it's like, well, if we can just get to Kevin Kelly, then we could get to Brian Baker, and then we could shut the door. It's just the bridge getting there. Clevenger is starting to look a little bit better. He's kind of just having all these control issues, and I know he gave that home run to a lefty on lefty home run to Wilyer Abreu, right? So, Clevenger's still trying to finding, I think, his rhythm in the season. He was out for so much, and you kind of lose the momentum and the rhythm, and it's even like getting to him, right? Cam Boozer's been pretty good, but Manuel Rodriguez is doing his rehab, right? He's in Charleston right now, and then he's going to go to Durham. That's a huge boost for this team, is a guy like Manuel Rodriguez. And I don't think we'll see Edwin Uceda or Hunter Biggie again this season, but I think they could scrap it along just enough. Like Legumina can have a good outing, right? He could use pretty good. Kimbrel maybe might give up a run or two, but he's not a catastrophic punt reliever out there that you throw out, so I think it's okay. I'm not really concerned about the bullpen. Sometimes I don't feel the greatest about them, but I like that the Rays have their bullpen guys sometimes pitch like 2 innings. Like, you'll see Kevin Kelly come in maybe like the 6th inning or the 7th inning and only need 1 out, and he gets the out and he comes back in for the next inning and does the full inning, which makes me feel a little bit better about those guys compared to like a team like the Yankees that 1 inning and you're done. You can have a shutout inning, you throw 6 pitches, you're done though. So it's kind of weird with the Rays bullpen. I'm not sure if they're going to add at the deadline or if they're just going to count the Manuel Rodriguez activation as adding at the deadline for the bullpen, but we'll see. Steven Matz is nice. It gives it another lefty arm out of it, but we'll just see. He was pretty catastrophic when he was in the bullpen, so we'll see if maybe he's a little bit better now that he's back.
Yeah, yet to be seen for Matz. He is active. We
TBD.
haven't seen him yet. Right, so hopefully he was experimenting with some occasional sidearm deliveries, like switching up his delivery. So maybe that's going to be his new tool of choice. That feels very much to me like a bullpen type of thing. Like they probably planned for him to be in the bullpen and, maybe be a 2 or 3 inning guy and be a little funky out there. So I don't know. All right, let's get to our trade proposals here. So
Let's do it.
Will and I have each separately, we don't know what each other's going to present here, put together 3 mock trades, and we're going to present them to each other, and the other person is, yes or no, or maybe if there's a modification to it, and we'll go from there. Let me mention a couple things up front. The deadline is August 3rd at 6 p.m., so it's a week from today. Rays have already been linked to a lot of guys. The Rays are all over the rumors. We're talking Scooble, we're talking Arise, Foster Griffin, CJ Abrams, Ryan Jeffers. The list goes on. Like there's the Rays seem to be big game hunters, which is really, really exciting for us as fans.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rentals available, Will. A lot of rentals available. The Rays could also go for a bigger target with longer team control as well. Some which we saw already this year with Curtis Mead and Connolly Early that kind of kicked things off, and maybe that gets the Snow going downhill here. So there could be some other targets that are not really as much in rumors just because it's not a low-hanging fruit type of deal. Obviously, this would mean if you're, let's just I'll throw a name out. I don't know if this is one of your guys. I'll apologize. But like, let's just say you wanted to trade for C.J. Abrams. You're going to need to trade probably Theo Gillen or Flewelling to get him. So I that's just keep that in mind. For there could be untouchables, right? Just for everyone listening, but you have to just do the value equation, right? Theo Gillen might be the next best outfielder in, might be one of the best outfielders in Rays history. Might be a future All-Star. Might be. You have to risk that, in order to get someone who's good right now, that you can plug in right now, right? So, like, in my mind, no one is technically untouchable if there is the right return back, right? So,
yeah.
Anyway, just had to get that off my chest. So I'm gonna kick us off. Here. I'm taking the reins. So we talked about something a couple times. We just talked about it in this pod too. The Rays pitching rotation next year could be a little thin. Right? And so you could go for a rental, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. Whether that's Skubal, the number one target, whether that's Michael Wacha, I don't know. But I think it would be wise for the Rays to find a pitcher to trade for that they can keep next year as well. And the other thing that I was looking for when I was looking for guys is someone that you feel comfortable starting a playoff game. I think those are the two things. There is one, and just to flesh out the point for next year, only Ian Seymour and maybe Steven Matz are locks in the rotation next year, by the way.
Yeah.
Final year of arbitration for McClanahan, final year arbitration for Griffin Jax. Rass contract throttles up to $20 million. I think they will bring him back, but it's a lot of money for the Rays. So I kind of put this all in the concoction. One name stood out, and that's Jose Soriano for the Angels.
I thought you were going to say him. Yep.
Yep, I think it's tough because the Angels do weird shit. Like, they won't trade the obvious guy, and that was my hesitation with putting him as my target here. But he fits those two things that I was talking about. You can have him in the rotation next year as your number two, I hope as your number two. Let's just say that he can pitch in the playoffs. There's room for growth in terms of command for Soriano, which is a type of profile that the Rays like to take the risk on at times. Get somebody where you can, like, they're really good already with their raw stuff, and then try to get them to, aim down the middle essentially. And who knows what? There's been some success stories this year in the Angels pitching, so I'll credit to them. But who knows what that has been like, and maybe him coming to the Rays, he could get even better. So now, what would a package look like going back? I put down Daniel Pierce and Santiago Suarez as my return going back. So a shortstop for later and a pitcher for maybe a year or two for the Angels. I think Neto could be moved at this deadline. The concern I have with the Angels, I think things could be different with the Angels now, but they really like guys that they like to move prospects quickly. And so it's like, are they willing to wait on Daniel Pierce, who had a 55 future value? And that's where I'm coming from here, is why I think could be the primary piece. Are they willing to wait 3 years though? I don't know. But I think looking at our list of prospects, I don't think that one of the top guys would go in the Soriano trade. I think it would be like a two for one type of deal with one of our top 8 and then somebody else thrown in there is kind of where I'm at. So that's my number one package, or my first of 3 package deals here. What do you think?
If it's Daniel Pierce, so I want to do some minor league minute later. There's a new top 30. Daniel Pierce is no longer in the top 10. So I don't know if that changes your trade, your argument, but we'll say for
he is
Angels,
11.
Daniel for the Angels, Daniel Pierce would probably be in the top 10, for being honest, right, with their farm system. If it's like a Daniel Pierce and maybe like someone a little bit down, like number 25, 26, or someone not even on the top 30, I'd take that trade. Yeah. I mean, Jose Soriano isn't as good as he was to start the season, which he wasn't going to keep that pace the whole year. But he's still a good arm is a reliable arm, right? That you would have going into next year that can immediately slot if you know those 3 or 4 guys aren't in the starting rotation next year, easily slots as a number 2 if needed. So hey, deal. Let's take that deal. Oop,
Yeah.
there's a
So
stamp there.
so
That's a
Daniel
stamp.
Pierce Daniel Pierce number 11 prospect right now, but he's so far away. It's going to be on the Angels as to whether how they project him. First rounder, 14th pick from last year, right? So and then Santiago Suarez is number 13. So you're getting two quality guys. If it's not enough, the name that jumps out to me as like two names kind of jump out to me. Okay, how about we go to the next echelon and trade you either Brody Hopkins or Michael Ferret, and then package him with Daniel Pierce or somebody else. It's going to take a good chunk. I don't think it's going to take a Gillen or Flewelling or even a Bodine, but then maybe beyond that, it's realistic.
Yeah, I would put actually no deal if Hopkins or Ferret is in
Okay.
that deal. I would put no deal those two for Jose Soriano. I wouldn't do that.
And I think that's fair because the concerns about the Rays pitching depth for next year. And so you give up your two closest to the show kind of guys, or at least two of the three, maybe if you throw a Ty Johnson in there. So that was my first one. I felt like that could happen if the Angels are willing to trade him. All right, what do you got?
I'll save the big fish for later because I know you got the big fish also. So I'll save him for later so we can go back and forth. So I'll start with one that probably is the most linked to the Rays in terms of like the best fit, and that's Luis Arraez. I know you weren't really sold on Luis Arraez joining the team. You want more pop, but I kind of see like Luis Arraez being like Yanni Diaz start like lead off, and then Luis Arraez, two guys that are just great at just getting hits and getting on base, and then you got Cam Nair and then Aranda. I'd actually put Aranda as 4 because we went to it a little bit before. Cam Nair's not very good in the 4 hole. But he's killing it in the 3 spot. So that's actually what I would do, especially because Aranda is so good at driving runners in, right? So I think Luis Arraez would fit pretty well at second base for the team. I would do Luis Arraez for number 9 prospect, Austin Overn. That was acquired in the Shane Boss trade. So Overn's looked very good for Montgomery, but the Rays have just a plethora of outfield prospects, right? They have Gillen, they have Melton, Simpson's incredibly young. They still have DeLuca that's in the majors, right? They have,
the
Victor
rapper,
Mason Jr.
the rapper Slater DeBrun.
Slater DeBrun. I had him too, right? So they have all these outfield prospects, and like I said, he's been great for Montgomery, but it seems like if the Rays are going to go for a guy like Luis Arraez, that they might have to spend a little bit just to make it a 1-for-1 trade, and that's probably Austin Overn. And I think that's something that the Giants could use is an outfielder that'll start in AAA next year that they could feel good because they're probably not going to be competing next year, for being honest.
I think somebody could beat that trade. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Sorry, my trackpad on my computer is spazzing out here, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. I'm not 100% sure. It could be. If it is, absolutely, no question about it. Yeah, I lost my trackpad on my laptop. I'm going to get my mouse here in a second, but anyway, I guess my hesitation with the Rise, I think it's a good trade. I think he would be if we brought him in. I think I'm happy still because it's an immediate upgrade at second base. Like, just no question about it. Immediate upgrade at second base, extends that lineup. He's had a great year defensively. That's the part that I'm like, are we sure? Are we sure about that? But if we are, and if the Rays feel as good as public metrics do about him defensively, then okay, then let's get him in there. It's not like Palacios is elite defensively either. He's had some wacky throws recently too, which is just kind of out of nowhere for him. So, yeah, I like it. I like it. I could see it costing potentially a little more just because he's one of the bigger names that we know is going to be traded. We know that the Giants are going to move him. So, okay. Yeah, I'm in. Let me get my mouse real quick. You keep going here.
Yeah, I'll. Well, I don't want to get into other, so I want to make sure you're there. But
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'll go into somebody that you actually touched on before, and that is C.J. Abrams, who will be incredibly expensive. It's if the Nationals trade him, right? But the Rays wouldn't get him to be a shortstop; they'd get him to be a second base. So if you notice, kind of a trend here. Um, Nats, the Nats need relief help that I touched on. So I think it'd be CJ Abrams. Plus, the something the Rays love to do is a little PTBNL, player to be named later. They love to just throw that in there. Hey, we'll use this. Just we'll figure another guy out later down the line, right? Maybe like a Shane Boz or something. No, but
Right.
I think if the cost for CJ Abrams and just a player to be named later would be I think Brody Hopkins is in that group. Caden Bodine, Hunter Biggie, and Daniel Pierce. So I think with the need for the relief health, Biggie fits in. The Rays aren't going to trade anyone, for being honest, out of their major league roster bullpen because it's already not super like shut down. Besides Clevenger, Kelly, and Baker, and not a lot of teams probably want Craig Kimbrell or Cole Sulser or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think Hunter Biggie kind of fits in. He has a lot of control. Hopkins plus Connolly early could be a nice, controllable young pitching tandem that they can have together, with the lefty and righty. And then I don't know if I meant Daniel Pierce in that group. It's Hopkins, Bodine, Biggie, and Pierce. And after drafting Emerson, Pierce is just a good asset for the Rays to move. And that the Nationals is like, all right, well, we can have this young guy. He can play second base, maybe shortstop, maybe third base or something. He's a first round pick. Sure, we'll take him. So that's what I would do for CJ Abrams. Obviously, the big name is Caden Bodine. I think the Rays are they prefer Nathan Flewelling because they drafted him, and I think it's like, hey, we drafted this catcher and we developed him. Let's go, like we did it. I think they kind of want that praise, and I think they'd rather keep him and move Caden Bodine, but that's just my guess.
I think that package could work. I think that could work. You got Bodine, number 3 prospect for the Rays. I don't know what he is overall. Maybe I could try to find that.
He's in the top 100.
For sure in the top 100.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's top 40 or top 50. I'm not sure how high
No,
he is.
I think he's in like 70 or something.
Yeah. Brody
I'll
Hopkins. Yep, they want some pitching over there. Absolutely. That's what they need for the future. So you throw him in there, and then you got some relief help for now and for later. I think the question is, so if the Nationals are going to trade Abrams, which would be pretty nuts, but if they were going to do it, that's definitely them phoning it in on the year, which projection-wise, they're not projected to make the playoffs, but they've surprised this year. They're the best offense in the league. A big part of that is Abrams. So, like, how far away do they think they are from really being successful? Are they looking at their organization being like, we don't have the pitching for the next 2 years, and that's why we need to do this, and we need to trade him for pitchers, and we want to clean house from you, Rays. We want Brody Hopkins. We want Michael Ferret. We want Anderson Brito. And we want all your best pitchers, and you can have them. Is that what it's going to be? I would not. If he is on the block, I absolutely would see Theo Gillen being part of that package. Gillen plus somebody else for CJ Abrams. Elite player for right now with team control for the future. The Rays are a little different than other teams, though. When I look at a player, I don't think about, when it comes down to trade value, it's still going to matter for this, right? But the Rays are probably not going to keep a guy like CJ Abrams through his final year of arbitration. So you're going to get 1 and 2 years, I think one more year after this year before he's going into ARB 3. I could be wrong about that. But it's not. I don't think there's the same runway for the Rays given the payroll restriction for a guy like him. But if he is available, it's going to take a shitload to get him because he's going to be the best offensive player available if he is. I accept that trade. Absolutely.
I think the idea would be, right, with CJ Abrams is, you plug him at second base this year, he gets shortstop next year, and then Grady Emerson is like, hey, I'm going to be in there in 2 years. He's ready to go. Now, is that going to happen? I'm not sure about that. But if needed, right, you still have Carson, which I actually don't have Carson in any of my trade predictions getting moved. I don't know if that means that the Rays aren't going to trade him or if that means teams actually want him, but there is a world that CJ Abrams will play second this year. Next year gets shortstop, Carson plays second, and then Grady Emerson's maybe ready or Carson goes back to shortstop. I'm not sure that dynamic, but they have options to kind of fill in for shortstop if they want to trade CJ Abrams again after. But yeah, I mean their current catchers, they have Harry Ford, who I think's been a top prospect for the last, I feel like 5 years or something when he was with the Nationals, and he hasn't really done very much. And Hebert Ruiz, I think, is the other one who's like okay, but he's not elite. So I think a guy like Caden Bodine that could probably make the major league roster at some point next season would be kind of what you would need. I think they could kind of pull that on Theo Gillen if as long as possible, right? If they could go without trading Theo Gillen, there's no way that they would kind of bring his name up.
I think the underrated part of this is like I don't know. I think it's easier said than done to just say, hey man, you're playing second base now. He's played shortstop his whole life. Not well. So like, can that actually be done? Or is it going to be even worse defensively if you put him to second base, as opposed to keeping him at short? I mean, just the way the Rays have operated, the fact that Taylor Walls is now they did sign Ha-Seong Kim at some point. I know that didn't work out, but they tried to upgrade. I know, but if you think about what they're trying to do, they were trying to have a still positive defender with a much better bat, allegedly, at shortstop, and that was only last year. So, yeah, really fun one to think about. If that happens, I mean, this team becomes so good. Like this offense really, like that's one guy you can get that the offense immediately becomes so good. Mm-hmm. So, all right, I've got a twofer coming up.
Okay.
So we're looking over at the Twins. We don't know what they're gonna do, but they have some pieces. They have some good pieces that they can trade here, and they're kind of still in it because of Central Stinky, and they might even buy. So that's where that's truly the next week can change so much. Like they win 6 in a row, they're gonna start buying, and then this is gonna look a little different. But if we look at where the Twins are projected, do I still have my Pacoda? I do. They're projected to finish with 79 wins and miss a playoff spot. So if their models internally look anything like that, then maybe they do decide to sell. Okay, let's assume they do. 2 guys I want from them. Number 1 is the obvious one, Ryan Jeffers.
Yep.
One of the best catchers available, especially at this point where Shea Langoliers is going to be injured and probably out for the rest of the year. Hunter Goodman, there was some news going around, which this is no secret. There's big concerns about him defensively, and the Rockies initially were asking for way too much. And so Jeffers not a great defender either, but he has a very consistent track record of quality major league offensive production. He has a 110 OPS plus for his career, and it's not like we have elite defenders behind the dish right now at this second. So I think it's pretty flat defensively, and then you're getting a very good hitter who's having the best year of his career. The concern is that he's been hurt, who was hurt for a lot of the year too. He is back now. So yeah, I think that's the obvious one. Maybe this is still a name that's been floated around, but slightly less obvious is Cody Clemens, who's got a lot of team control remaining. And I don't know if he might be part of the solution for the future for the Twins as opposed to somebody they want to trade. But if they want to reset the table a little bit here, immediate upgrade for us at second base in the fact that he's a positive defender. Palacios is not, and he's a lefty, right? So he's going to get the majority of the playing time. So I'm picturing this as a Palacios, thank you so much, back down to the minors. And then Clemens, you're coming in and playing every day against righties with Williamson playing against lefties at second base. That's how I picture it, right? And he's also been a positive hitter this year as well. I think you have to project him to be about MLB average, which is still an improvement above Palacios. And you have him for a while because of the team control as well. So that helps our middle infield that we're not exactly sure of the future there either. Is it going to be a Yadier Namo? Is it going to be a Carson Williams? What are we going to do in the future? You have Ben Williamson, you have Walls for another year, Carson down there, TBD, right? So it's a 2-for-1. I've got 2 options for the Twins. Do you want a package centered around Carson Williams? And do you want the guy who's can play whenever you're ready to take the risk with the hit tool? And then they can keep Brooks Lee at third base and have Carson Williams play shortstop or play second base for the future. They also have a young player, Kalen Culpepper, in their farm system, who I think they see as their future at short. So my other proposal would be Nathan Flewelling. Just Nathan Flewelling and maybe one other just random guy, and we'll take Cody Clemens and we'll take Ryan Jeffers' rental for the year because we're going in to try to win a World Series. That feels like the reason I say that. This Jeffers, especially if available, is going to be very competitive market. Very competitive. You're going to have to outbid the Yankees and the Red Sox just in our division alone. And the fact that you've got Cody Clemens with 4 more years of team control after this year, it's going to be really expensive to get him in there. So that's my proposal for Clemens and Jeffers, which I think fits the Rays really well.
It's very interesting. The Rays and the Twins do have, a solid amount of trade history in the last couple of years, right? The Joe Ryan trade, Taj Bradley trade, right? So it's they've mingled a little bit. I think in terms of value to get them, it's kind of weird, right? Because you look at Cody Clemens and it's like, oh, if we just didn't trade Brandon Lau, like we wouldn't need Cody Clemens, right? We didn't need that left-handed, power hitting second baseman, but we did. So that's kind of where we sit. And Richie Palacios, even though he's kind of, goes on these hot streaks, is, he's not really no one's going to go to the World Series with Richie Palacios playing second base on the roster. I'm just going to be honest. I hate saying that because Richie's a good vibe guy, but, you look at a team like, the Phillies or the Dodgers or the Yankees, and it's like, you don't have Richie Palacios playing second base for you guys. Yankees are infield is their own mess, but that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at. So I it's kind of tough because the Rays did draft Nathan Flewelling, and he was the number 2 prospect and the future games MVP, but I'd probably take the trade. I think getting Ryan Jeffers is a pretty big deal. Even Nick Fortes has been playing great, right? But they're on different levels, right? Nick Fortes might go, he has some good games, but Ryan Jeffers is overall just more consistently good. And then getting, not having to think about next season for your second baseman is also another good feeling, having that infield locked up. So as much as I am a little hesitant to move Nathan Flewelling, you have Caden Bodine. So deal. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
Two for one kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone, and for being honest, at some point, Nathan Flewelling or Caden Bodine are going to get traded. It's not a matter of if, but when, because the Rays aren't going to have both of these guys on their roster, right? They're not going to be like the Orioles that have Ali Rushman and then Samuel Basallo, right? They're not going to do that. They're going to get their value where they can to fill in other spots. That's just the organization they are. So at some point, they'll have to commit to Bodine or commit to Flewelling and trade the other one. And this could be the time to do it.
I think those guys are both really good prospects. I think they're
great prospects.
You also have to remember that they are prospects and that it's possible that their value is highest right now in this current moment, right? So I think if you looked at it on paper, if you center a package around one of those guys, there's going to be probably other names included. It could end up being an overpay, but I think you're going to have to overpay to get these guys on your team this year just because of the competition for it. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm coming from.
Especially a catcher.
Right. And it's not like there's 8 of them available. There's like 3 names that are like impact. Yeah. I'm talking catchers that you could trade for, and instead of it being a liability of Nick Fortes in the 9-hole, all of a sudden Ryan Jeffers is hitting 5th or 4th at times, and that's a totally different thing. So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We each have one more. Over to you.
It's time. It's the big whale. We have to talk about Tarek Skubal, of course. So it's something I think everyone needs to remember, especially as I'm going to go into the players that I think could be in this trade. Is Skubal at the end of the day is a rental, and he is not re-signing with the Rays at the end of the season. Right. So you only get Skubal. You're paying what, $18 million? I think it's 36 or 30. It's 18 or 16 million that they're paying him.
31 was his salary for the year.
Yeah, so give or take, maybe it's like 50 million. I don't know. he's already kind of expensive for the Rays, even though they're going all in, but he's still a little pricey, and he's a rental. And we will not see Tarek Skubal in a Rays jersey in 2027 at Tropicana Field. It's just not going to happen. He's probably going to go to the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees, a team that can pay him huge bucks that he deserves. So I think for that reason, the Rays likely won't swing any of their top 5 prospects in this trade for Skubal. As much as good as he is, I think the Rays are that's just how it's going to be. They just won't move any of their top 5 guys for Skubal. Tigers also still want to compete, and so they're looking for some help and some controllable pitching in return. So I have Tarek Skubal, and I threw another player to be named later because the Rays just love to fucking do that shit. Excuse me for saying that, but they just love to do it. I feel like there's always a player to be named later, or the 3-team trade that no one else does, but the Rays just do it, right? So I have Tarek Skubal and a player to be named later for Joe Boyle, Hunter Biggie, Trey Morgan, and your guy Aher Arenamo. And it's maybe not the most luxurious package that the Tigers would be looking for Skubal, but I think you have to kind of look at what other teams would would be giving up, or really what they have to give up for Tarek Skubal that would be looking to add him. Joe Boyle and Hunter Biggie they've flashed stuff, right? And they both are very controllable. One's, you get some relief help and you get that controllable pitching so you can still compete. Trey Morgan is still in the Rays, top 30 prospects. I think he was once a top 100 prospect, maybe, if I get that right. I don't think the Tigers are very sold on Spencer Torkelson at first base. So Trey Morgan is probably ready for another team that isn't, doesn't have a blockade for Trey Morgan to play first base and maybe a little outfield if they wanted to. And then I think just adding the Rays, I think Arenamo is numbered like 18 on the Rays prospect list, adding their number 18th prospect into it that is in AA and could be in AAA, maybe make an impact next year and develop. He's had some flashes. Now, granted, other guys could be moved. I could have put Braden Taylor on this, but I just like Braden Taylor and I don't want the Rays to trade him. I could have put Tate and Gray, but I'm not sure if the Tigers want a guy that's in, low A ball. Kind of, I could have done Daniel Pierce, but it's like, I already put him with the CJ Abrams trade, so I threw Arenamo. So it's not, maybe the most luxurious package that you expect, but again, Skubal is a rental, so you can't just go and, hey, here's Theo Gillen, here's Brody Hopkins, here's Flewelling, here's Bodine, any of those guys, because it's too much of a gamble to move those top prospects for a guy you get for 2 months or maybe 3 months for that World Series push.
Yeah, I mean, I accept that trade. I absolutely. I think the Tigers will try to aim a little higher. I really do. That's my worry with it is.
Yeah.
Which
they could. They could easily shoot for getting a Michael Ferret or a Brody Hopkins.
That's the name that I think it could be a 1-for-1, a Brody Hopkins for him, which is like.
In my mind, though, the Tigers have said that they're still like, the reports are if they trade Skubal, especially with how open the American League is, that they don't want the fans to think that they're just throwing in the towel for the season. Is Brody Hopkins ready?
You can't have your cake and eat it too, though. Like, if that's what I would say to the Tigers front office. They don't always do a great job communicating. I'm going to just say it, the Tigers front office. They're a little. I
remember Crochet and Cease, all that. But with that being said, Joe Boyle, Brody Hopkins has never pitched on a major league roster, right? But Joe Boyle has and Hunter Biggie has. So those are two guys that do have experience on a major league roster.
That's true. I still, maybe it would be Ian Seymour. Could be the name. I think that was. I've heard
Ian Seymour. Yeah.
Right.
And like Santiago Suarez. I've heard him.
Yeah. A good 4 or 5. A good 4 or 5 starter. But that's. I don't know. It's just. It's going to be really interesting if they're going to be able to rake somebody over the coals. Yeah. There's no question the Rays can pull this trade off. There's no question about that. They can pull it off. It's just like, how far are they willing to go? And the true people. It's a rental, right? The value of Tarek Skubal is the fact that he's going to take the ball for you in the ALDS, the ALCS, and the World Series and give you out of, what do you say? There's maybe, just given that he's not been at the very peak of his powers and injured this year, there's maybe a Mizorowski, a Christopher Sanchez, there's like a couple guys, maybe even you could maybe even throw like a Yamamoto in there, given what we saw last year. There's only a couple of guys you'd rather give the ball to, like
Yeah.
tomorrow. He is in a very special elite company where he's your number
I
one
think,
playoff starter. Like, how often do you get the chance to get a number one playoff starter at the trade deadline?
and I think too is he's a lefty, right? So you kind of look at some teams, and I'm going to look at our little brothers in New York, the Yankees.
Yes.
It's very real world. The Rays play the Yankees
Yes.
in the ALDS, and Aaron Judge is one thing, right? He's split proof, right? But the Rays are very good at containing Aaron Judge. Then you have the lefty guys. You got Trent Grisham, you got Ben Rice, and you have Cody Bellinger that are very good against right-handed pitching. And
Right.
so having a lefty like Scooble, especially pitching in Yankee Stadium, is huge to have that arm. I mean, they have Shane McClanahan, but if we're going to be totally honest and being totally real, maybe if Shane doesn't get hurt, it's a different conversation. Tarek Skubal is on a different level than Shane McClanahan.
It totally makes sense why we're in the hunt for him, because
Yeah.
if this team's been great in the regular season, but when you're getting into the playoffs, you need high impact elite starting pitching. This is why teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Brewers are like World Series. I'm amazed how high our World Series odds are, which is great. But I know Nick Martinez has been excellent this year in terms of ERA results, but there's no comparison with who you'd rather have starting for you.
Yeah.
There's just not in a one game sample size. So,
Yep.
and that's why they would be all over Scooble, and they can afford it.
They
It's
can.
just whether or not they win that.
The Rays
trade.
can afford multiple players with their. It just depends if they want to blow up the farm. That's what it comes down to, if we're being honest.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think you have to totally blow it up for Scooble, but someone like a CJ
Especially
Abrams, you got to blow shit up. You got to blow it up. Yeah. All right. The one place we haven't attacked yet, which is going to be my final trade, is the bullpen. I've got a name in here for the bullpen. There's a guy over in San Diego, not named Mason Miller,
What's his
named Adrian Morejón, the nastiest, filthiest, most disgusting lefty I've ever seen in my entire life. You want 101 mile an hour sinkers, you're gonna get him. He is gross, absolutely gross, and he would be a 1-year rental who would become the new fireman. So you'd have him and Kelly as a new fireman. You stick with Baker as the closer, and you have Morejón as just an absolute nuclear warhead that you can fire it at any moment. This guy's, just pull up his Savant page if you're listening to us right now and you haven't seen it. It's like, it's the Red Sea. This dude is disgusting. So if you're gonna go 1-year rental, you want high impact guy. The Rays will probably not do this. They're probably gonna get like someone that you could never even imagine in the bullpen. But if they want to go for just F it, let's go get one of the top targets available. Morejón could be that guy. What do the Padres need? They need pitching for the future. So I'm looking at Ty Johnson or Anderson Brito, depending on how far down the road they want to go with this, right? So you're going to get 1 year Morejón. We're going to give you one of our better young pitching prospects. Do you want one closer to the show? Do you want one a little further from the show with higher upside? Totally your call. AJ Preller, you can decide. But Morejón is just like, you just plug him in, and he's just going to be an absolute killer.
Yeah, I'm taking that deal all day long. Yeah, I would easily move either of those three. Like you said, do you want someone that's ready now that you could probably slot in towards the back end of the season when the rosters expand to give a little cup of coffee in the bigs, or that's gonna be ready for next year? Or do you want someone like Anderson Brito that's not gonna be on the team next year, but has a lot of upside? And I would kind of love to see that's where the Brandon Lau trade tree kind of goes. It goes Brandon Lau and Anderson Brito, and then
That's a good one.
yeah. So that'd be interesting to see. I would 100% take that trade.
I think this is just my favorite guy available. Okay, obviously Mason Miller, but like the price is going to be. I don't think you need to do that. Would it be awesome? Yeah, it'd be freaking awesome, of course. But Miller is in ARB1 and already making like $4 or $5 million. He's going to be paid like a starter through arbitration because of how disgusting he is. And so let's just do the 1 year rental for Morejón, who's making like $5 million, something like that. So you're paying $2 million for the rest of the year. which is going to increase how much you got to give them back. That's why we'd give up a pitcher with 6 years of control. That seems to be decent for the future. But at the same time, it's a relief pitcher, so you don't need to give up a Brody Hopkins or a Cooper Fleming or whoever, any of our top 5, or Ty Johnson is our 10th ranked prospect, and that could even be, that's probably an overpay realistically when you look at the future value of it all. But at the same time, you're going to have to overpay for these top end guys.
Yeah.
So I kind of waited this long too long to say this, but comment below what do you want to see? What do you want to see the Rays do? And I'll pin a comment when I post this, because I think all these are compelling options. There was none of these here that I'm immediately vetoing. I think if anything, we might be undervaluing just some of what it's going to cost for these guys. I think that's it. There's a world where we look at this trade deadline as it approaches, and if things don't change that much from today, there's not going to be as many sellers as it seems like there's going to be. And so that's going to mean that the sellers are going to be able to rake guys over the coals. It's just the fact that the Rays can do that if they want to do it. If you want to mortgage some of your future here and get 3 huge trades, you could do that. If you want to get Skubal, Jeffers, and Morahone, if you want to get CJ Abrams and he's available, you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's other options too, right? If you can't afford CJ Abrams, maybe you could afford Zach Neto. It might be a little bit cheaper.
Don't like Neto. Don't. This is what I'm saying. No, flat out.
Yeah,
way too much swing and miss and a shitty defender.
I'm not a fan of him, but that's how you can kind of look at it. If the Rays are really looking for an infielder, and they don't land Abrams, maybe they pivot to someone like Neto. But again, I'm not on the Neto train. I would, if it's not CJ Abrams, I probably wouldn't acquire like a middle infielder.
Yeah, and the other thing is you think outside the box,
obviously, too.
Right. Yeah. There's some other sneakier names in there too, but I mean, the Rays could very well think outside the box, something we couldn't even really consider just realistically covering in a podcast episode. I put back down the names of Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards in here. I don't see. I don't really see it happening. Right. I don't see this happening, but you could make a trade that Peter Bendix down there in South Florida could accept. Maybe you trade Carson Williams plus someone else, and next year Carson's their shortstop, and he's on a minimum contract, which is what the Marlins clearly desire over there. And you give them, Brody Hopkins, and then you get Xavier Edwards for 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, it's funny because technically there's infinite options, right? Like if you follow what I'm saying here,
yes.
You could technically do anything, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just a matter of who says yes and how much competition there is.
It's also, a name that we didn't really mention. It depends on how the AL West kind of shakes out the next couple weeks. Is over in Houston, you look at the Astros, they're not trading Yordan. There's no way they would trade him, but Jeremy Pena is going in his last year of arbitration, and he's an immediate upgrade at shortstop, right? Taylor Wells is a great glove.
Yeah.
Jeremy Pena has a great glove, but the bat of Jeremy Pena is just so good. So, but that's also the question, right? Are they going to be buyers? Are going to be sellers? Are going to teeter the kind of both ways? It's a little interesting to see, how some of these teams that aren't, the defined label of buyers or sellers, how they're going to go about it. I think how this is going to go, especially in the American League, is a lot of teams are going to, sell some guys, but also be buying at the same time. Kind of what like the Rays did last year, right? They traded Taj Bradley, but they got Griffin Jacks. They traded Curtis Mead, but they got Adrian Hauser, which still doesn't make any effing sense to me, or whatever.
That one's good. That's tough looking back on that now.
It is. But, I think that's kind of the vibe this year in the American League is, we're going to sell some of these guys that we have value for, but we're also going to buy some guys and still make just somewhat of a push to the playoffs.
Yeah, and you could see more of these swap type of deals. The Mead early one was perfect example. Need for need. Like the Rays maybe would trade.
Mead for Mead.
Mead for. Did I say Mead for Mead?
No, you said
Mead
need
for,
for need. I said mead for mead.
oh, need, yeah, need for speed. Yeah, I mean, like the Rays maybe could trade Ian Seymour for Cody Clemens, something like that. Here you go, Twins. You can have a 4 or 5 starter for the future. Is going to be cheap, and we'll take a slightly less team control infielder, right? Kind of a
Yeah.
need for need type of thing. I can see that happening, no question about it. So I don't know. I mean, we're gonna do an episode the night after that trade deadline when everything's settled in, and I am gonna be anxious all week for that day
Yeah.
and to track the teams that are in the gray area right now, like the Astros. Are they going to win the next 5 in a row, or are they going to lose 5 in a row? And now all of a sudden, Jeremy Pena's in rumors, and we're throwing our papers in the air.
Yep, exactly. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll just see how it shakes out.
All right, this was a lot of fun. Do you have a closer for us tonight?
I do. I have a close. I have 2 closers. First, I have a question for you. Who's
Two
autographed
closers.
on your hat? Let's get.
You
that.
want to take a guess? Both on the roster last year. I got them signed in at Wrigley Field.
At Wrigley, both on the so they're not on the roster this year.
One of them is. Let's see. One of them is one of my favorite players of all time.
Oh, Yandy Diaz, baby.
Yes, Yandy
Yeah,
Diaz.
Yandy on there. Okay.
The other one has the other one. Well, let's just call him a generational slapper.
Yeah, Jake Mangum.
Jake Mangum.
Respect, man. Jake Mangum would be great on this team, I think. Anyway,
real quick, I waited out there for pretty much everybody, and they won the game, but they were the only 2 who stopped. Only 2. Wow. Josh Lowe pretty much flipped me off. Never been a Josh Lowe guy from day one. He didn't flip me off, but he really checked out.
That cemented it.
Yeah, I was pissed.
Well, he's not on the team anymore. So that actually transitions little Yandy to my closer, right? Yandy got his 1,000th hit as a Ray. He's 4th all time on the Rays hit list behind Carl Crawford, Evan Longoria, Ben Zobrist, which is great company. Where would you rank? Yeah, I know he's your favorite. You love Yandy, but if you're looking at all the Rays that have ever come in Tropicana Field, put the Rays jersey on, and had their careers, where would you rank Yandy Diaz in terms of, we'll kind of split this up, right? Because pitchers are its own thing, and hitters. And so in terms of hitters, where would you rank Yandy Diaz all time in terms of the Rays for hitting and
position player. Yeah. I think definitely pushing for that top 5. I've got him right around the same area where I'd have Carlos Pena, right in that one.
Interesting.
Just right around that same area is where I'd have him. I'm just partial to Yandy because I love his attitude and his consistency as a player, and he's such a rock for us. So, I mean, I would put him right around that probably 5 and 6, like him and Pena right in there, like the 5, 6, 7 area. You're not touching a Longo, you're not touching a Carl Crawford. I don't think you're touching a Ben Zobrist. I don't know as many guys like before any of that era, but I don't think there'd be anybody in there that was going to sneak in there. I
would put him. I think I'd actually put him at like 5.
Yeah,
I think
he's got an argument for 5.
I think I got Longo, and then Carl Crawford, and then Ben Zobrist. Ben Zobrist is one of my favorite players of all time.
Oh yeah,
and then I actually have Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah,
under there.
I think I can get down with that.
I got KK, and then I got Yandy, and then actually under Yandy I got Brandon Lau, and then Carlos Pena on there. I think Brandon Lau. If they didn't trade him, he would have passed Carlos Pena on the home run list, and if he didn't have injuries and COVID. But I think Brandon Lau just put in so much time with the Rays, was drafted by them, and did everything. So yeah, I put Yandy right at 5 in all-time Rays players.
He's going to be one of the Rays that when I'm 74 years old, and we've won 4 World Series as a organization, and we've now got a couple Hall of Famers in there. He's going to be one of those Rays that I'm still going to be thinking about as like, this was just my guy for a time period. Like, no matter what, I don't care. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't care, whatever. Like, this is just certified Rays.
Certified Rays player.
For a long time.
His number, I don't think it'd be absurd if the Rays decided in like 15 years from now to retire Yanni's number.
I think what it's going to take for that is for them to sign him again for like 2 more years, and he plays till like 39 and is still hitting 300 and gets to 1,500 career hits. I think then there's a good chance. What's the number? Who's number one? Or well, Longo's. What's Longo's career hits for the Rays? Do you have that handy?
No, Longo's number 2.
Number
Crawford's
2.
number 1.
Carl Crawford's number 1.
It's only a couple hits.
I would have got that wrong.
It's nothing crazy. It's not like it's 200 or 100 more hits. It's really not a huge number. But yeah, Crawford, which I think is deserving, that Crawford is the league or the franchise leader in hits. But
1,471 career hits for Longo. Now notice Carl Crawford's jersey is not retired, and it's not going to be at this point, right? And so
he's in the Rays Hall of Fame, which it doesn't make sense to me to have the Rays Hall of Fame but don't retire the numbers. I don't really get that part, but to me that's a different thing. But
did we? This I might look bad here. Did we draft Carl Crawford?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, he was.
I was wondering if there's could be
drafted, homegrown, like mega superstar.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I remember seeing pictures of him with the jersey. Who was that? What was the guy's name? The original owner.
I don't even know who the original owner of the Rays was. I'm a fake fan. Look at that.
Namoli, that guy, Vince Namoli.
Vince, what are you doing? What are you doing, you Namoli?
Oh. Well, on that note, we're gonna get out of here. Hour 20 for the kids here. It's past my bedtime.
I hear that.
Well, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for tuning into the opener. We're gonna see you next Monday with a different Rays roster, most likely. Take care. Peace.